On today's episode of Fundamentals, I'm talking to Jesse Rawls, who is the owner of Metromobile Mech, which is a mechanic that comes to you. He can do maintenance, he can do repairs, and the best part is you don't have to spend time at the garage. So, hope you enjoy this interview. He had a really interesting story, and I enjoyed talking to him. Well, I'm here with Jesse Rawls, who's the owner of Metromobile Mech, which is a really fun company, a mechanic that comes to you. So we were just talking about how you found your passion for cars and pulling them apart and putting it back together. So high school, you got to decide what you're going to do. So you were talking with your guidance counselor,
right? And
he was trying to talk you into going to college.
Yeah, she was like, what are you going to do? And I had no clue. And she's like, well, you've got to pick something. And so I was actually at a friend of mine's house over the weekend, and we were up real late at night watching one of the motor TV deals where they redo cars and stuff. And this commercial came on for this technical school down in Houston called Universal Technical Institute. And I'm like sitting there glued to it, like, oh, this is exactly what I want. Like it was like a light bulb went off.
Yeah.
It's like God's telling me, like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so I was excited to go back to school on Monday, and I went into her office. I'm like, hey, I want to go to UTI. I want to go to Universal Technical Institute. That's what I want to do. And so she was like, okay, well, so she kind of put together some stuff for me and ended up getting a scholarship, not a very big one, a pretty small scholarship, but was able to take a aptitude test with the school, which gave me a little bit of money to pay for it. Okay. And the rest of it, of course, took out loans like everybody else. So.
Okay, yeah. So you went, you found a passion, you got trained in mechanics or however that works. But then this wasn't, your venture right out of school. You were doing construction before this? So
actually, right out of school, I immediately started working in the car industry.
Okay.
And worked at a dealership in Mejia, Texas, a little Ford dealership. And I did that for a number of years. And I fast-tracked to getting a senior master certification. I was like, I might have been 21.
Okay.
And these people are like, what are you, like, how are you already at this? So, and then I got bored with it. So I kind of started looking around, and I wanted to go into the oil field. So ended up going into the oil field and just got to where I'd learned how to work on the tools in the oil field and learned how to work on the big trucks that they had. And so next thing you know, I'd either be doing the oil field work, or I'd be working on the truck when it broke down, or I'd be fixing this or doing that. Yeah. And so that went on for a little while until, it always seems the oil field's always up and down. So it went down on a downturn, and I ended up getting a phone call from a recruiter out of the blue. One day I was out in Midland, Texas. It's miserable out there. It's windy. It's hot. It was August.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, I do not want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
But luckily this lady calls me out of the blue one day, and she's like, hey, we're looking for a mechanic. We're starting up this new program with a big telecommunications company, and we want to know if you'd be interested in interviewing. It's like, absolutely. I am tired of this. So I ended up going to work for this as a mobile mechanic for them, and I kind of got back into the mechanics. And I loved the fact that, work for that big telecommunications company, I was able to work on bucket trucks and generators and, stuff that I'd never seen before. So all of a sudden now I'm like super interested in it again.
Yeah, new skills, new cars.
Right.
And you're going to them, you said, so it's
right.
Kind of the beginnings of mobile mechanics.
Right. And so I kind of did that for, it took me about 2 years, and I was running such a high production number that I started getting on conference calls with these executives of this company, and they're like picking my brain. What are you doing? How are you doing this? And then so they're like, okay, we need you to stop turning wrenches on these things, and we need you to run into management. So I was like, okay, fine. So I'm like 25, 26 years old, and I'm like a manager for this company. I'm managing guys that are like 40 and 50 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's kind of weird, but I'm just
They saw you had an aptitude for it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I did that for like 10 years. And then one day they said, hey, can you move to Oklahoma City? We want you to take over these 2 shops. They're about to close them down because they're doing so poorly. And if somebody can't bring them out, then we're just going to do away with them. So they moved me up to Oklahoma City, and just being from Waco, and then I had family here. Of course, my kids are here. I had gone through a divorce. And so I was having to travel back and forth a lot. I ended up turning those 2 shops around really well. And, I was just kind of just sitting down one day, and I was like, I just really don't like being up here. I don't like being away from my kids. So I called my friend Jared, and I was like, hey, do you have any work for me? Because I'm tired of doing this. Like, I don't want to be away from home. I'm ready to come home. And he goes, man, it's so slow right now. Like, I don't. He was like, I could find something for you to do, but come talk to me this weekend. So I came home, sat down with him, and he goes, what do you think about starting your own business? He was like, you have a knack for this. He was like, I've known you for a long time. You have a knack for this. What do you think about that? And I was like, this was my dream when I was a kid. Like, I wanted to own my own business. I wanted to do mobile repair. Like, I've wanted to do this. And so I'm like,
now's the time.
I'm like, I'm broke. Like, I have no money. I can't, I don't know anything about business. Like, I don't know what to do. Like I know how to fix things.
Yeah.
And he goes, I can handle all the rest of that. Can you run the truck? And I was like, yes. Let me think about this. And so I went home, and like I built this whole thing in my mind. And my friend Jared Jennings, he had spot on tires at the time. So I kind of called him up, and I was like, hey, I know you have that van and you run around, and
similar business model.
So I'm like, I picked his brain for days, and I'm like, okay, I can do this, and I need to scale it this way. And I believe that the van setup, kind of like what you have, just would let me have the ability to put enough stuff on there that I could run around and do stuff. So, I mean, that's the idea of the business is when it comes down to it, we all have a passion for things. And time is the most valuable thing that we have. People do not want to spend time away from their families. You're already doing too much. You're already going to work. You got kids, they're in sports. You're running all over the place. You're doing this. The last thing you want to do is have to spend even 5 minutes at either an oil change shop or a mechanic shop, or have your vehicle down, or especially for routine things. Now, when it breaks, and there's really nothing you can do about that. But when it comes to routine maintenance, a lot of people sacrifice that because they just don't want to spend the time to mess with it.
Yeah.
So, thinking about that and just knowing what I know, it's like, I can do this and save people from having to take time out of their families' lives and stuff like that.
The amount of times I've gone into a drive-through oil change and just left because there was just a line of cars and I had no idea how long that was going to take. It's happened so many times. And then I waste even more time coming back trying to find a time where I know I can just go through. So just having someone come and give you an oil change, maybe I assume if they're at work or whatever, you can come to the parking lot and say, I'll just do your oil change out here. Right.
And that's what I do. Really, right now, my primary customers are fleet. I have several different businesses around Waco that have 30 or more vehicles in their fleet. And, I set it up with the guys. I'm like, look, I know y'all have a safety meeting. One of the companies has a safety meeting once a month. It's usually on a Wednesday. And I'll go over there at, 6:30 in the morning, and I'll set up, and here they come, they pull in, and I'll knock out, 10 oil changes while they're in their meeting. And then, so those guys, it benefits the business because their guys don't have downtime. at the end of the day, they're paying those guys a substantial amount of money. And then if they have to pay them to drive over to an oil change shop or over to, you know, a mechanic shop, then they're losing money and losing time that vehicle could be up on the road. So if we can cut that out, that's the idea behind it. And it's working really well. The companies that I have are they love the availability that I have for them so far.
Where does, like, do any more heavy duty mechanics come into it? Like, do you do repairs on cars as well, or is it mostly maintenance that you like to do?
Mostly repairs. Some maintenance. It's hard to be for the companies. I do maintenance. Individuals, the price point, sometimes it doesn't correlate to what they think. You can go to when you go to an oil change shop, they're able to buy oil in bulk, right? So they can buy 200 or 300 gallons at a time because they have storage for it, you know. So their price point is way down compared to what my cost is on it. And so when it comes to individuals, it's hard to do it and be real competitive. They're also paying for convenience, right?
They have to understand, like, there's a certain charge when it comes to convenience.
Yeah, you can go to H-E-B and buy a loaf of bread for, you know, $3 or $2, but if you go down to the convenience store, it's going to be like $7.
Yeah.
You know, so there is a convenience factor there, and you know, so some people do, and I have a lot of customers that call me up on the regular basis that I do that. I do a lot for nurses at the hospital, and doctors' offices and places like that, because they work 12-hour shifts and they don't want to mess with it. Yeah,
they don't want to take the time to go leave work and go do that. So what is it like for you then? So how long have you guys been operating?
So in 2023 is when we kicked it off, February 2023, and it was real slow at first. And then we've gotten to now where last year I bought a second truck. Okay. And I've got another guy that works for me. And, you know, currently I have my ears open. I'm not I'm not posting ads on the internet looking for help, but I've got my ears open and I'm kind of looking for people. Because you'd like to add another truck. I would absolutely like to add another truck. Ultimately, the idea of the business is eventually we would be in Temple, Killeen.
Because right now you're just serving Waco.
Yes, and I do some stuff in Temple. One of the companies that has me working for them, they're working on a project down there in Temple, and so I go down there probably once or twice a month. And I get a lot of phone calls from people. You know, I drive a big van, and it's a big billboard. It's wrapped, and you know, I get a lot of phone calls from people. They're like, "Hey, I've seen you driving down the road. You know,
tell me what you can do for me."
Yeah, tell me what you can do for me. And
do you feel like you're living your dream then?
Yes, I absolutely do. I mean, I can't just working for somebody else, and especially when you work for big companies and stuff like that. It's like you just scratch your head and you're like, I just don't understand the decisions that you're making here. And being able to make those decisions for myself is it's relieving. It's stressful, but it's also very relieving.
Okay, so business owner worked out. You know, at first you're like, I don't know if I can do this.
Right.
But you're just working out and you're living your dream a little bit. So your plan for the future then is to add more areas. You're doing Waco right now. Do you do like emergency repair service? Like if somebody broke down on the side of the road, is that something you would ever do?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
do you have a story? Because I know.
So you know, I was sitting there one day and I was like, you know, I need to figure out a way I can get a little more business without just people seeing my van. So, you know, my house is really close to the interstate 35. And so I just posted on Google, I took a picture of my van sitting in my driveway and I listed it on the Google business.
Oh yeah.
And so if you go on Google Maps and you type in mobile mechanic, boom, it pops up. So it's kind of a double-edged sword though, because I've had people show up at my house in the middle of the night, ringing my doorbell, I need your help. But I've also get a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
And I get tons of calls. I've had just people run over things. A lady one night, a lady hit a raccoon, and she's like, "I can hear it under my car," and she's like, "Can you help me?" And I'm like, so I try. My wife answers the phone a lot of times whenever I'm, at home.
Yeah.
And so she'd be like, "Yeah, he'll come."
Yeah.
And so she'll send me right out the door. And so I've had to rescue injured raccoons from underneath people's cars, and I've had to cut like the under shields out of underneath cars that just got mangled up from running over stuff. I've had a lot of calls like that.
Yeah.
So
what do you do if there's, someone calls you? Because I imagine, like you said, you just have a truck. It's not like a whole garage. I'm assuming you don't carry parts for all kinds of cars. What do you do if you can't solve a problem for somebody that's on the road and needs help?
So generally during the phone call, I can
Diagnose
guess. Yeah, I can make a pretty educated guess on whether or not it's something that I can fix. O'Reilly's is primarily the parts store that I use. And they stay open until about 9:30, sometimes 10 o'clock, depending on which location. And so if it's in that range, I can get it. If not, then, it's, there's not much you can do. If, there's been some times I've put some Band-Aids on some cars. I had a guy one time that he broke down right in Bruceville Eddy. His heater hose blew up, and he called me, and luckily I had some temporary type heater hose, just some bulk hose that I kept in my truck, and some hose clamps and stuff. And I went over there and patched it where we could
just
get it up to we got it up to the store, and, usually go inside and have a conversation with whoever is at the store working and say, "Hey, can we leave this here overnight?" And then in the morning I'd get up, go get the parts that I needed to fix it and take care of them.
Okay.
So it works out sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. What would you say is the number one lesson you've learned as a business owner that you, advice you would give somebody trying to start their own business?
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah. That's good.
And it's really hard. My wife gets on to me all the time. She's like, "You can't give everything away. At the end of the day, you have to pay your bills."
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, that's the hard part.
Charging what you're worth too.
What you're worth.
And helping people understand that that's what it is. Yeah.
The smartest thing, one of my customers told me one time, because I was stressing out, and I'm like, I'm really not, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do this. I'm just, the money flow is just not, it's really hard.
Yeah.
I carry, so I do work for the railroad. I do work for a lot of companies. And so I carry a high insurance. I have to have insurance on my business. So, and that's the thing in the competition, especially in the Waco area, there's a lot of people that do this. And they'll show up at your house in a pickup truck that, and they just have tools in the back of it and stuff like that. And they don't have insurance. They don't have, the near the stuff that it takes to protect the consumer. And they're a lot cheaper. And so that in that competitive space, I'm looking at it going, you got to protect your customers.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, things happen. You can do everything in the world to protect, to keep things from happening. But, with anybody and anywhere, any shop owner will tell you that some things just happen. Mm-hmm. And so I like to protect my customers, and so that does require me to have a little bit of more overhead. But one of my good friends, he's a business owner, and he's like, you're not charging me enough. It's basically what he told me.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you want to pay me more money to work?
Yeah.
He goes, you need to charge more because you're worth it.
Yeah.
He goes, I've been doing this business for 10 years. He goes, I've had my vehicles in and out of shops. And I've tried to align with I try to align with one shop. And he goes, and I'll be honest with you, in the last year and a half that I've done business with you, this is the most successful that I've had. This is the most vehicles I've had up going all at the same time. He's like, normally I'm sitting here with 3 or 4 vehicles and they don't work, and I'm having to shuffle drivers from either riding together or doing that, or he goes, and I can't just go rent a vehicle and put them in it because they're in specific work trucks, you know, and so it's really been helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Having that.
What does the Waco community mean to you? How does that play into everything you do as a business and how you treat your customers, being in a smaller community?
It means everything because I grew up here.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people. My brother has his own business in this town, and just I have a big family. My grandmother had 7 kids, so 6 of them are still alive today. And just my aunts and uncles and just everybody grew up here.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of cousins.
Yeah.
I have, I've got 2 brothers, and just all the different people that know me and know my family in this community. I've got a lot on my shoulders. I can't let people down. Yeah. So I got to take care of people.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, random left field fun question for me. You like cars, obviously. Mm-hmm. You've been taking apart your whole life. What is your dream car?
A Shelby GT 500.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your favorite car to work on if you were to maybe restore one or something like that?
I've really been wanting to get an old, not even old, just a mid 80s C10, a square body Chevy pickup, just redo it, or even just in that late 70s, early 70s Ford, pickup truck, short body, short bed. Just I really want to restore one of those and just kind of have it. So
is that something have your kids gotten? Do they have a knack for the mechanics at all? You got your daughter over here. That's why I'm kind of looking at her.
Yeah, no. Actually, my oldest daughter Olivia, she helped me change the brakes on my stepdad's truck one time.
Oh, yeah.
So we went out there and she wrenched on it, and I showed her how to do it, and she got out there with me and got her hands dirty and just did it. But as far as them, she would do it. Lila would do it too. Yeah. She would get out there with me a little bit, but I don't think they love it.
Not the same way you do.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and telling me your story. Super interesting. Is there anything you want to add before we end?
Just do your research on the people before you choose them to work on your vehicle, and just know that there's companies out there. There's questions that you can ask. Are you insured? What protections do I have using you? Do you offer any warranties?
I was going to ask you that too. You have warranties, right?
So if I work on a vehicle and I buy the parts from O'Reilly's and I have that, I have it set up. That's the only one that I have right now. But if I do it through O'Reilly's, every one of my vehicles or customers is protected 12 months, 12,000 miles, parts and labor, and it's also a nationwide warranty. So, if I put an alternator on your car and you took off and you're like, I'm going to Miami, and alternator failed on you in Alabama, you would call a phone number. They would get you to a near shop, and they would fix it for you, and it wouldn't cost you anything.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely, I appreciate y'all, and thank y'all for doing this.
Of course.